Hi everyone. Um, Welcome to your digital note-taking lesson. Um, this is going to be one of many digital note-taking lessons that you're going to have. The first one, we are starting in Term 1 Week 1, your first week program. You will see more of these such lessons throughout the year, hopefully, because there's definitely more than one way to do note-taking, and the method that we're doing today may not be the method that serves for all of your subjects or for all of your learning needs, which means that we are going to give you a variety of skills, a variety of methods, and then depending on what suits your learning needs, depending on what suits your learning style, you get to pick and choose which one works best for you. So digital note taking means that we are doing things digitally, of course, and we are doing things by taking notes. Some of the note taking methods that we are going to talk about may be familiar to you. You may have heard of them before, you may have even used them before. However, no harm in revisiting some of these things that you may have seen or heard before, and maybe picking up a few extra tips and tricks, a few extra pointers to make these methods that are familiar to you already become even more elevated and even more useful for your learning. Hopefully some of the methods that we do visit in the future lessons that we have may introduce something new to you, and then we can all learn a variety of note-taking methods in order for us to decide which one works best for us. Okay. So without further ado, we're going to start with our first lesson. The only thing you're going to need for today's lesson, is digital note taking. Of course, we're only going to focus on two things: your iPad and your pencil. So these are the only two things you have. Your pencil should be charged. Obviously, it's not going to work if your pencils are not charged, because your iPad's not going to be able to detect anything, right? So, number one thing, the only app we're going to use today is Apple Notes. First trick, I guess, of the day: pencil. Just go to your homepage, whatever your homepage is, and then bottom right hand corner. Oh no, sorry, wrong trick. And then pencil, double tap, and if you double tap your pencil, it automatically brings you to a quick note. So this is what we call a quick note. A quick note means that if at any point of time your iPad is locked but you need to jot down something really quickly, if you double tap, you will see a note, and then you can write and save, and you can type, you can write, you can create lists, all on the note itself. So if you never knew that, that's lesson number one. Now let's go into the rest of today. Right, so we are in the Note app. You will only see this page when you have actually unlocked your, your iPad, and then you will see what you might see might look something like this, where you don't see the sidebar at the left hand side of the app. For you to see the sidebar on the left hand side, you have to look at the top left hand corner where you see that little logo. That's the logo that you click for you to be able to see the sidebar. Alright, second trick that we are going to talk about today would be about organization in the Apple Notes app. Considering that you are taking a lot of time and effort to make your notes, whatever form your notes may take, but if you are attempting to create notes in Apple Notes, it would be relatively important for you to be able to find your notes when you need them, and for you to be able to organize your notes and find them quickly also. So one important thing when it comes to looking for your notes is to be able to organize them well, and by that I mean using folders. Alright, so how can you create folders? You can only create folders once you have the sidebar on the left hand side. You will see the word folders there right at the top, and at the very bottom left corner you will see a little folder sign with a plus on it. And when you click on that folder sign with a plus on it, you have two options, new smart folder or new folder. Don't have the time to get into new smart folder today, so let's do new folder instead. And then you enter a name for the folder. You can even use your pencil and write in the blank space, because it will recognize your handwriting as words. So let's call this school. That's it. You can see. So under the school folder, you have your notes. If you feel like under school you want to have different categories for your subjects maybe, or for your CCA or things like that, doesn't matter. If you notice, I went into school and there is no plus option at the bottom left hand side. Go back to folders and then you can press the plus once more. Same thing, folder, let's do English. Save that. And then I have an English folder. It doesn't matter that they are one on top of the other. You can drag, hold on to English and drag it into school. Or move. Yes, sure. You can move it also. Then it's under English. So you have two options. You can drag and drop it. You can drag and drop it into the school folder, or you can click on the folder and just press move. So now I have English folder inside my school folder. Okay, so let's go back to school. Under school, I can also create notes. So that's what I want to do today. So I'm going to get rid of the sidebar, and this is my note. What we are doing today will be digital note taking. Now, if you see what I just did there, third trick for the day, you have the option of making your shapes look more seamless in the Apple Notes. And how do you do that? Whatever shape you decide to draw, like for example, I was trying to draw an oval around the word digital note taking. Using your pencil, you just draw your shape, whatever it may be, but don't let go of your apple from the screen. Just leave it on the screen and hold for a while, and it will automatically show how your shape will look like when it's corrected. And this is what happens when you automatically let it go, it loses the shape. So draw your shape, hold the pencil on the screen, it will just try to fix your shape for you, and that's what you have. Alright, so digital note taking. So digital note taking, let's talk about why it is an important skill set for us to have, especially in this day and age. I'm going to divide this up into two parts, okay? I'm going to talk about note taking first. So why note taking specifically? Now, note taking is important for a variety of reasons. I'm going to summarize them into short and simple ones for you. Number one, it boosts your comprehension of the materials that are being taught. In order for you to take something down as notes, you have to understand what is being conveyed, what is being told to you, what is being taught to you first, because in order for you to create notes, you have to know your stuff, you have to know what you are writing about, so it forces you to comprehend, to understand, okay, what is this person speaking about exactly, what is this person talking about exactly, in order for you to form the sentences or the points in your own words on the paper or on your screen. So it boosts comprehension in the sense where you have to understand what you are being told or what you are being taught before you can put it down in any shape or form in your notes. Okay, why else is it also important? It is also important because it teaches you to prioritize. Alright, it teaches you to prioritize. I think by now you will realize that you get a lot of information on a day-to-day basis across all your different subjects, and you have to be able to determine which information is more important, more relevant, more crucial for you to remember, for you to understand, as compared to other pieces of information. Every subject has its high priority and low priority sections or segments of every chapter. And note-taking forces you to prioritize which pieces of information or which sections of your chapter are more important compared to other segments, because those are the portions that you will want to make sure that you include in your note. The details that are more important, the keywords that you absolutely need to know, those are the things that you want to put in your notes, which means that you are being put in a position of prioritizing what are the things that you absolutely must have in your notes that are essential in order for your notes to be useful, and what are the things that you can let go of. You do not have to write everything, and you have to decide what is essential for you to write down and annotate in your notes. And then one more reason is because of memory retention. Alright, note-taking is incredibly important for memory retention, meaning how well will your brain remember or retain these things that you have learned, or this newfound piece of information. Science has proven that in order for you to remember things, in order for you to better be able to recall things, it is important for you to write them down yourself, as compared to what? As compared to listening to these things, as compared to highlighting these things, as compared to reading these things. All these more passive ways of absorbing information, reading, listening, highlighting, they don't force you to be involved in forming a memory of the information. But when we talk about writing something down, science has proven that it forces you to retain the information a little bit better in your brain. The connections in your brain are formed just ever so slightly more strongly, as opposed to when you are merely reading or listening. Okay, so those are the main three reasons why note-taking is incredibly important. The other thing that I would like to talk about will be the digital aspect of things. Why digital versus paper note-taking, right? So digital versus paper. Now, I am specifically referring to digital handwriting. All right, I might be bursting some of your bubbles, but there has also been a lot of research to show that typing, still a digital way of note-taking, but typing out your notes, it does not serve as great an impact as opposed to writing your notes. So when I talk about digital note-taking, I am still referring to physically writing using a pencil, but instead of writing on paper, we are writing on a digital screen, i.e. the iPad you have sitting right in front of you right now. Okay, so why do we prefer digital note-taking, writing digitally versus paper note-taking? I think like I mentioned earlier, handwriting has been proven to be more successful in helping us remember things as opposed to typing. So we are still going to prioritize writing things, which means that your Apple Pencil will still come in important. But why digital versus paper? Number one is that the key reason, I think, is that paper is bulky. And when it is bulky, it is less accessible. So when something is bulky, it is less accessible, and more often than not, we want to be able to be prepared. We want to have our materials with us, ready for whenever we need them, which means that if you have an average school day of 3 to 5 subjects, if you want to have all your notes ready with you at all times, it is going to be a very heavy task for your back and for your shoulders, to carry all this paper around with you. However, as you can see, if we are doing notes digitally, everything, no matter how many notes you build up, everything sits quietly without added weight in your iPad, and it gives you access to everything that you need without adding more weight to your shoulders. Let's not even go into the um, significant decrease in environmental wastage if we cut down on our use of paper. So one digital item serving us a variety of uses can save us a lot of physical weight and also emotional, wrong word, and also environmental weight. Okay. And I think the second one, which makes things really helpful actually, is that digital notes are searchable. And what does searchable mean? In modern technology, it has been made easier for us to be able to search keywords or terms or specific sentences or phrases that we are looking for in any part of our notes. I'm not going to go into that specifically today, but the fact that it is possible for us to search handwriting, you can try that as a neat trick after this lesson also. All these words that I have written on my Apple Note, I have done them manually by hand using my pencil. However, modern technology is helpful such that the Apple iPad recognizes my handwriting, and when I search for these words, the Apple algorithm recognizes that I am referring to my handwritten words, and they are indeed the same words. Really cool, but not the time for me to get into it right now. Okay, so these are the two main cornerstones for digital note taking. Why we are choosing to go into note taking, for what reasons and what benefits will it bring to you, and also why are we going into this digital way instead of going with our usual pen and paper. Alright, I'm very sure digital note taking may not be something very new or foreign to most of you. Some of you may have been on this side of YouTube, been on this side of TikTok, where you see people creating aesthetic notes, like beautiful color coded notes and things like that. You can go into that, but at this stage, let's talk about the practical uses of note taking first before we get into the aesthetically pleasing side of things. Okay, now there are several different methods of note taking. I don't think the list is exhaustible. There may be many methods for note taking out there that I may not have even been able to find. However, for the foreseeable future, we have identified several methods of note taking that will be able to provide most of you with a method that can work for you. We are admittedly, not every note taking method is going to work for everybody, which means that out of the variety that we do over the rest of the year, hopefully so, you will find one that works best for you for all your subjects. I will also have to admit, I don't think all note-taking methods work with all subjects. Certain subjects, and it may not even be for all topics in the subject, like, for example, if I use the context of the English language, mind mapping may work with English language when we talk about writing essays, but it may not work so well when it comes to comprehension. So a certain method may not apply across an entire subject, but that's what the variety is for. That's why we are giving you a variety of methods in order for you to see what works best in what scenario. So I've already given the little hint away. What are some of the methods that we will cover in the near future? Like I mentioned earlier, the first one that we're talking about today is mind mapping. Okay, as you can see, that is precisely how I laid out my little briefing for you here today. I decided to create my briefing in a mind mapping method in order for you to see that mind mapping can really be applied to pretty much any and every scenario. Of course, mind mapping is probably something very familiar to most of you. Most of you must have heard of mind mapping before, whether you have heard of it before or have tried it out before. So that's why we are starting with something very familiar to you for this very first lesson. All right. So mind mapping is a note-taking method that is presented in the form of a map. So it is presented in the form of a map where you can see all the pieces of information from a bird's eye view. So you get to see all the information that is necessary. Okay. Now, there are several things that I have done in my mind map which I want to accentuate, I want to bring out, because these are the little tips and tricks that will make your mind mapping even more useful and even more helpful for you, especially when we talk about revising for any particular exams or revising information in order for you to prevent yourself from forgetting it. Okay, number one thing that I have done is that I have kept my words or phrases to be very short, and that is that's one of the more important tips when it comes to mind mapping. When it comes to mind mapping, because you are seeing everything from a bird's eye view, it will not help for you to write sentences or paragraphs full of information, because that's not the note-taking method for you. To be able to get into details of things. When it comes to mind mapping, we are talking about key ideas, key pieces of information, keywords. Everything must be key only. So we keep it only to single words or short phrases, like for example, paper, bulky, searchable. I try to keep things as minimal as possible when it comes to words or phrases. Use as little words as possible in order for you to get your idea across. So for example, memory retention, 2 words. 2 words in order for you to understand what I am referring to. Could I go into more detail? Yes, of course, I could go into more detail and choose to branch out on memory retention, going into whatever more details that I want to include. However, that's where the concept of mapping is coming in. You are drawing connections, you are drawing associations from one point to another to another. So the arrows are just telling you that here is more detail, here is more detail, here's some more pieces of information that comes from this main idea. So when it comes to mind mapping, if you are using sentences, if you are using anything more than 2 to 4 words, you are going into far too much detail already. Keep it short, keep it sweet, so that as you look at the mind map as an overview, you get to catch every big idea that the mind map is supposed to give you. If you want details, you go into that by drawing more arrows, or by using another note-taking method that you will learn on another day. Alright, but the main idea for mind mapping is that we want to summarize information. We want to summarize information so that we get an overview of the information that we know, and it presents information clearly for us. The key thing for mind mapping is that we want to be able to see information clearly to get a bird's eye view of everything that is going on. Okay. All right. Now, another trick when it comes to mind mapping is also color coding. All right. So I botched it up because I did not want to do yellow here, so I could have done this with blue instead. So color coding is also a simple and fast way for you to draw your attention to the fact that a whole cluster of things fall under one particular segment. So for example, why is digital better than paper? based on my yellow highlights, those are the keywords that I would be able to use in an essay, for example. Searchable, paper is bulky. So color coding can also be used as a way for you to form some kind of connection between your ideas. The ideas that you have on the paper, if you have more information, the mind map may start to look much bigger and start to look a bit more content heavy. So if you want to make it easier for your eyes to identify which ideas are actually linked together, then you can use color coding also. Okay, another one would be using proximity. All right, using proximity, or in other words, how close or how far. Now, typically, the idea is if you want to signify that an idea is important, it is a key idea of this particular subject or this particular chapter, then you keep it close to the middle of your mind map. The closer to the middle, the more important it indicates. And if you have a particular point or a particular concept that is important, but just not as important, not particularly the key piece of information from this chapter, but you still want to include it, can, no problem. Just maybe draw a longer line, So instead of if you notice, my mind map is all looking very bunched in together, because I do think all 3 points that I'm talking about, why we do note taking, why is digital better than paper, what are the methods of digital note taking, I think they are all equally important. But for example, if I want to talk about memory retention, and I found some extra piece of research, for example, talking about the forgetting curve, but a bit not relevant. Interesting, but not relevant. So you know what? I'm going to draw it a bit slightly further away, which means that if I'm making use of this set of notes for revision, I can focus on the central portion of the mind map. The ones on the outside, extra pieces of information. Good to know, but not necessary for me to use as revision. Alright, so mind map. What are the 3 things that I mentioned earlier about mind mapping? We can talk about, so I'm going to use that as my new central point. We can talk about using single words or 2 to 4 words in a phrase. Another tip and trick will be using color coding. Third one will be using proximity. Okay, that's about it. Alright, so from mind mapping, what you can see is that there is always one central idea, and that central idea will be the main idea that you are trying to connect everything to, you are trying to link everything to. So for example, the main idea for today is digital note taking. And then from digital note taking, I have several different associations from my central theme. So why do I want to do it? What are the methods for me to do it? And that's why all these associations are coming out of my central theme. And then I can start to regard all of them as central themes. So if I think of methods as my central theme, what are the associations to method? So everything has an association, and you can think of all these connections and start to draw lines out of literally anything, to be honest. Okay, so, and the thing about mind mapping is that it can go very big, very fast, because you can draw connections to almost anything. So that's where the proximity tip will really make a very big difference. Things that are much more important, you may want to you may want to draw shorter arrows so that you indicate shorter arrow, closer together, more important. Longer arrow, I can afford to put it further away, it is slightly less important. Okay. And on that note, this is where I leave you to attempt a mind mapping on your own. There will be a short little task for you to complete, and your form teachers will be the one to give you the information. I'm just here to share one last thing with you about why digital note taking has its benefits over paper note taking. Is because of a little addition where you get to add photos to your digital notes, and adding photos to notes on paper is possible but wastes way too much ink. Okay, so mind mapping, there are a variety of things on the internet that will allow you to do mind mapping. Like I said earlier, I am giving you the skill set. So this is what this is what a mind map would look like on A4 paper also, for that matter. However, but with digital note taking, you get to add in a little bit extra for yourself. So two apps that I would encourage for you to take a look at, because they may be the mind mapping tools that may work best for you if you're not a fan of doing them manually by yourself. One that I have found, number one is here. Yes, okay. So number one is a very big photo of an app called Miro, Miro. Okay, so it is a way for you to create a mind map. You notice they say collaborative mind map because that is also something that they allow you to do, and you can sign up for free on the website using your icon email. All right, another one that I have found also that was great was, where's my photo here? Poplet is yet another app. They both have apps for the iPad. However, I'm very sure you are well aware that you are not authorized to download your own apps. If we garner enough requests, if there are enough people who are asking for such apps, we may consider them. But at this stage, you can access them through Safari, you can access them through Chrome, sign up for free using your icon emails, and go forth and be creative. All right. I hope today was useful for you, and I hope you learned a little bit new. If not skills, then at the very least apps for you to try. Okay. I am definitely looking forward to the other note-taking lessons that we may see each other in the future. And if you have any further questions, then of course feel free to come and chat with any of the ICT committee teachers. You can chat with Mr. Chris Locke, you can chat with Mr. Joel Ng, or you can also chat with myself, Miss Nadia. All right. On that note, I will leave you with time and space to create your own little mind mapping magic. And I'll see you all soon. Goodbye, everybody.